Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the third Fast Forward with Forever training. We are super excited to present this training to you today. It is robust and full, and our presenter, Deb Durma, is just an incredible person who is smart and ready to share her expertise with all of you. So this is a training you are not going to want to miss. So get your pens and papers out, begin to take some notes. Let me switch over to the presentation here. And before we get started, just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, I usually have the whole sales team on with us today, but Tara is traveling to Minnesota as we speak. And I do have Erica Berg on the line with me today. She's going to be helping answer questions. But I would like to just ask you guys to please hold your questions till the end, because I bet Deborah will do a great job answering your questions as she's going. Like I said, this training is robust and full, and I'm certain that many of your questions will get answered. So, but please hold your questions towards the end. There's something she did not address. She's happy to address that and answer your questions in our question and answer session, which will be at the end of this class. So let me go ahead and just introduce Deb Durma to you. I talked to Tara, and I said, tell me a little bit about Deb Durma as I introduced her. And Tara had some very nice things to say about Deb. She said she's very consistent. She's a numbers girl. She loves a checklist, and she's very helpful to her team members. In her day job, she trains teachers and teaches them how to teach. She's a gentle heart, and she cares so much about other people. And she's also very diligent about working her business and meeting the consistency bonus each quarter. So anyways, I wanted to introduce Deb Durma as someone who I've gotten to know over the last couple of years. I met her when she did the Save Her Photos training 2 years ago, and I was always so impressed with her expertise, her ideas. She's very smart. She's an incredible educator. She's an incredible teacher. And I've learned a lot from her. And I'm also thankful that she's so open and willing to share her knowledge and information with the entire field, with all of the ambassadors. So I just want to thank you, Deborah, for being a part of this training and being on with me today. Are you there, Deborah?
I'm here. Thank you, Shelley. And I just want to say I love my forever business, and doing these classes and teaching has just been a fun way for me to grow my business. And these classes were created just from listening to your trainings, webinars, ambassador meetings, and then conversations with so many ambassadors and leaders. So before I start, I just want to say thank you to all of you, because all of that information helped me to develop the system that I'm working with, and I'm happy to share today.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. That's so nice to hear, and I appreciate that you appreciate our ambassador community so much. That's wonderful. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I know we've got a jam-packed schedule here. So today we're going to be talking about community centers and how Deborah uses community centers to grow her customer base and to work with her clients and customers. So first of all, before we get started, can you just tell us about a community center? What is a community center?
So I work with our park and recreation. So I'm not sure what it's called in different cities, but in our city it's called the City Parks and Recreation. And it's a place where they offer courses and classes for people that want to learn something. And I teach the hands-on class on how to work with their photos.
Okay. So what are your goals for a class like this?
So my main goal is to meet people who are ready to take action. When people sign up for a park and rec class, they're ready to do something based on the description. And then I also want to spend time investing in the relationship with them. And I utilize the free account as we're working through the class. So I'm building a relationship, and eventually when they trust me, they're ready to spend the extra money and then make a larger purchase.
That's a great way to get new customers and clients because of that relationship. I think that's definitely key. So tell me why you prefer this kind of event as opposed to some of the home gathering type of events.
So the home gatherings and parties have never worked for me because I feel funny that I just met a person, and I don't like to go to, quote, a party to sell something. So I look at myself more as an educator versus a party host. So for me, because of this, I want to teach the classes and be a teacher, and I spend time investing in the folks that I'm working with and building relationships for them. Because if I do it right, then when I meet new people, they refer me to other family and friends, and that helps me to build my customer base and my contacts.
That's fantastic, Deb. I just really think that sets you apart and, again, sets you up as the expert in your area. So people are coming to you to get more information and to essentially get started, right? As opposed to the other way around of you going to them. So you're offering more than just an item to sell. You're offering assistance and being an ambassador is all about, helping them each step of the way. So I think that your ideas here are just really genius, and let's keep going. Excited to dive on even more. So tell me why this type of an event works so well for you. And I hope I didn't just answer the question for you.
Well, and that's part of it. When you teach a class, you're set up as like the expert teacher or even the leader in the industry. So at a class, I meet people who are coming to look for a solution. So they're coming to me because I'm the teacher and they want help. And I can tell you in 100% of my classes, the people who come, they walk in the door feeling overwhelmed with their photos and they don't know where to begin. And so they signed up for the class because they want help, they want a solution, and they're ready to do something about it.
That makes a good point, because we all know that Forever typically takes a couple of touches to sell a Forever account, but it's really when the person is ready to take some action. I can't continue it this way anymore. I need to be organized. I need to do something. And when we're reaching out to people, we don't know where they are in that cycle, and that kind of like sales cycle. But here, they're at the end. They're kind of at the end of the rope. They've made action to do something and to come to you to get help. So I feel like that is really low-hanging fruit, people who are ready to go.
Right.
So what is the benefit of hosting your class there at that community center?
Well, the great part for me is they take care of all the advertising. They take care of all the registration, all the class fees. I don't have to worry about renting a room and then wondering if I'm going to get enough people to fill it up to be able to pay for the room fee.
Excellent. That's a real benefit. Those are lots of benefits. So what types of classes can you offer and can you sell there? I know we've talked a lot about doing educational events like at libraries and things, and we've talked about how some, you really aren't there to sell, you're just there to educate and to teach. So tell me how that might be a little bit different. What type of classes do you offer at this community center, and can you sell?
So I do offer beginning classes, as I call them. And when I offer the class, I utilize the free account to teach the class. So they are not obligated to buy anything to participate in my class. I'm not there to sell. I'm there to educate. And so they're using the free account and they're learning how to use the free account. And then by the end of the second class, I do explain the services that Forever has to offer, and I give them an opportunity to add it to their cart and to purchase it. But they don't have to buy something to be able to participate in a class because we utilize the free account. And then the great thing go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead. Keep going.
So one of the things that has worked really well besides teaching this beginning class is Park and Rec want to fill up their classes. And so about every 6 to 9 months, I offer a presentation at the public library, which is within the same city. And then while at the library, I'm not allowed to mention Forever or collect leads or sell anything. In fact, to do that presentation, I had to meet with the library contact so she could approve my slides, and they had to be educational with no company name. And then during the presentation, she actually sits in the room to hear what I'm saying and to make sure I'm following their rules in regard to selling. But what the city did approve was that they're allowing me to say, now come learn more about this at my Parks and Recreation class. And again, I'm not allowed to collect leads, but I'm allowed to pass out my Parks and Recreation schedule when my classes are coming. And in fact, the library contact at the end of my presentation does a presentation about their online system, and she uses my class as an example and how to find my class and add it to their cart and register. So the city sees it as a win-win. The library gets a free educational event, and then the Parks and Rec get more people who register for classes.
That's fantastic. And you may cover this later, but I'm just curious, kind of as I'm going through this, when we ask, can you sell there, are you go over pricing at all during your class?
So at the end of class 2, I don't go over the pricing right at the beginning. I do it at the very end. And yes, I do share the pricing because by the end of class 2, they're ready to do more, and they ask me actually, and so it always comes up.
Excellent. Okay. And I know we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, but I just was kind of thinking about that as we were going. So that's good information. It kind of sets it apart from what a library event is and what a community center class is.
Correct.
So do you offer one class or a series of classes?
So I have my beginning classes are 2 classes in 2 weeks. So this gives the students in the class an opportunity to practice what they've learned in class 1, and then they come back to class 2 with questions, and it gives me that second touch with them so that I can address those questions. When I first started teaching the series, I started with 3 classes, but I lost some folks by the 3rd class just because of time. It was just a time thing. And then I was ending up doing more follow-up. And so it was just easier for me to just fit it into 2 classes. And then if they need more time, I can follow up. But it worked better with the 2 for me.
That's really good advice for others who are thinking about doing this, because you've really learned that 2 is kind of the magic number. And from just my own life standpoint, it really does seem that 2 classes are doable. And I kind of agree that when you go a little further than that, then it becomes maybe a little more less doable. So I like what you've learned there, and that's great. So could you please describe your courses and offerings?
So I teach the 1 beginning level class, and I'm going to share more details in a moment. And then I offer a once-a-month photo organization and scrapbook workshop, which is at that same center. And at that workshop, people come to work on their accounts, to work on their books, and I'm circulating. Sometimes I offer mini teachings depending on the needs. And I do tell them during the beginning class that if they need more time or they want more help, to sign up for my workshops, and that's where they'll get more help and ideas to continue on.
Wow, you have a nice system here with all kinds of offers. I love it. So do you charge for a class, and also how do you advertise? You mentioned that they do that for you, but can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I do charge $30 for the 2 classes, and the city takes 40%. So they get their money based on the number of classes there. And my main focus isn't on making money with the class fee. I do charge a class fee because it adds value to the class. So what I found is that when people pay a class fee, they have a bigger commitment to attend the class, and then it adds value. And then because it's at the Park and Recreation Center and most community centers, you don't have to advertise or cold call to get leads. They do that for you. So they'll put flyers in the library. They'll do email blasts for upcoming library presentations. And then I also have to write a course description. So there's a written course description that's in an online catalog, and it's also mailed in their printed catalog. And my name is with every course description. And so my name gets out there in the community as well. And then Parks and Rec keeps my contact information. So if someone has questions or needs to reach me, they call Park and Rec. If I haven't met them yet, then they call Park and Rec for my information, and they call me. And then the next slide, because most people always ask, what do you use? The next slide that we're going to have here shows you my blurb on what I use in the catalog. So this is what's actually printed in the catalog. And you'll notice that the title on my class description says Digital Photo Stress to Digital Photo Piece is a very long title. And I did that intentionally because I wanted it to stick out in the catalog, and I wanted people to notice it. And then I also have the word photo in the title, because most people looking for a class with their photos will type in photo on the online catalog. So that's how they find this class, through online, or whether in the printed or online catalog.
So this is really another shift from sometimes what we're thinking as an ambassador of how we're selling. You know, really, as an ambassador, we're thinking about, like, who do we know? Who do they know? Where could I do an event and get other people that I don't know? But you've really taken that off your plate and have allowed them to do all the inviting. People are coming to them because they're ready. So that's just really a different, kind of like a mind shift, but also something that can be, you know, a gold mine for people and even for ambassadors to go and set up these type of events and watch the people just come in because they're at the place where they need the help, they can't take any more, and all the work is done for you as far as the inviting. So I think that's a really big benefit to doing these kinds of classes. We will post these slides if you want to know this description. I don't think we need to read it because people may have already read it or screenshot it, but basically, as you can see, it kind of gives a little description about what that class looks like, and we're going to even give more detail about class 1 and class 2 in just a minute. But let's go ahead and move on and talk about the attendees. So these are the people that are coming to the event. What type of attendees do you draw?
So when I do a class, I offer a morning and an evening class on the same day. So I have a 10 a.m. class and a 6 p.m. class. And the people that come to those classes, I find my morning class tends to draw retired folks, and my evening classes attract those who work during the day. So my average class size is about 3 or 4. One time I had 9 people in a class, and it was actually one person who invited 6 of her friends to join her and take the class together, and she's actually an ambassador on my team. So,
wow.
And then I also have classes where I may only have one person. And I still hold the class for one person, and this ends up being more like a one-on-one, and it's very specific to their needs. And usually when it's one-on-one, I end up with a bigger sale because it's specific to their needs and they get exactly what they need and they want to purchase.
Excellent. So when, you know, you say you have 3 or 4 people attending a class, you know, when people are doing it like a library event, they are looking for, you know, higher numbers. I think that, and I've always said like 5 and 6 is very successful. But even for this class, having 3 or 4, like you said, allows you to really have opportunity to work closely with these people, and you end up with a bigger sale. So I don't think numbers here are necessarily a factor of a successful event. It really is, if you have just even a handful, a couple people who are ready to get started and are working in their accounts with you, that is huge and very successful.
Well, and at my last library presentation, I did have 65 people attend. So I do draw big crowds at the library presentation, but we get into the meat and potatoes here at the classes.
Great. Well, and that's another point. So you've got a big pool coming, they're dipping their feet in, they're recognizing they need something, and then you're having a small group actually get started. But of that 55 people, I'm sure they're going to continue to funnel in to your classes when they're ready to get started and actually do the work. So what do the attendees expect when they come to your event?
So when they come into the class, like I said earlier, they're all feeling overwhelmed and they have no idea where to begin. So they're expecting a solution and they're expecting a place to start. And that's kind of how I approach it. I want them to walk away with a plan to address that problem that they have.
Excellent. Do you reach out to them before the class begins?
So that's another beauty of the Park and Rec. They have an online system. So as the instructor, I can go in and print my registration list before the class begins. And it includes the attendees' names and their phone number. So 2 days before the class, I call the attendees and remind them that they signed up for the class and what to bring. And most of the time I get answering machines, so I'll leave a message with my information and my contact number if they have any questions. And if I do reach a person, I'll ask them what types of photos are they planning to bring, family, vacation, etc. And this gives me a little bit more information about them prior to the class. Sometimes they do ask me about printed photos, and I let them know that we'll be talking about that during the class. And more than a few times, people have thanked me for calling them because they signed up for the class, but they forgot when the first day was, and if I didn't call them, they might have forgotten to attend that class.
Oh, wow. That's important then to follow up even before the class begins. Great. Do they need to have prior Forever knowledge or a Forever account? So is there like a prerequisite that they need to have attended the library event or know anything about Forever? Or can they just come off the street without any knowledge?
For the beginning class, there's no prerequisite. And in fact, I actually like it better when they don't have any knowledge, because then when I introduce Forever, I get the, oh, wow, and this is great, this is fantastic. And it's because people haven't heard of Forever. In all the classes I've taught, I haven't had anybody walk through the door that has heard of Forever yet. And it's just so exciting to be able to get excited with them.
Absolutely. You know, I know what you mean. I bet a lot of ambassadors know what you're saying too. It is quite exciting when you're able to offer a solution that really meets every need that we've seen with photo preservation. So it's really neat and exciting to have that in our bag to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have the attendees bring, and what if they don't have a laptop?
So I do ask them to bring a laptop with at least 20 to 50 digital pictures. And if they don't have a laptop, I'll ask them to bring an iPad. If they don't have an iPad or a laptop, then their phone works. And usually someone will have either a laptop, an iPad, or a phone. So everyone in the classes usually has one of those electronic devices.
Okay. And then how do you follow up with them?
So after the first class, sorry, my other phone's ringing. I'm putting it in the other room. After the first class, they get homework. So when they get their homework, I give them my contact information and I send them an email. So the email has their homework, reminding them of their homework, my contact information, and then it reminds them of the date and time of the next class. So after class 1, they get an email. Then after class 2, they also get an email with the video for the Forever Storage Account tour. And if they're interested in the media conversion, I send them the 4-minute video on how to choose a media conversion box. And then I also include in the email contact information with a blurb, with a link to my website, and a little blurb about if you enjoyed what you saw and you liked what you saw and you want to share it with family and friends, please pass along this information to family and friends and go ahead and forward the video to them if you'd like. And then, you know, I make it very clear where their family and friends can click on my link and sign up for an account. And then I also explain that if they pass on my name, they'll receive a $10 gift certificate for the referral if their family or friend purchases something. So if I meet somebody new and I get a call, I'll ask them, you know, did somebody refer you? And so after they get these initial emails from my class, then I add them to my potential customer pipeline or my customer pipeline for follow-up phone calls. And then during the class, if they tell me they plan to purchase the storage right away, if I don't see a purchase within a day or two, then I'll follow up with them and see if they have any needs or questions or remind them of the date of a sale if there's a sale going on and that type of stuff.
Fantastic. And this is a good place to insert that new coupon as well for someone who's signing up for an introductory account for the first time. They'll receive that $10 welcome, that $10 coupon in the welcome email. So it would be a good time to utilize that if anyone's out there going to be setting up these classes.
Yeah, that's what's great is I get to add that now.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things that you just mentioned. One is the referral. You've set up your own referral program and you give a $10 gift certificate. I just wanted to clarify that you are doing that on your own. Is that correct? Purchasing the
Yes, I'm buying the gift certificate.
Okay, she's purchasing it from herself and then giving those as a referral. And then also I wanted to mention the video that you're sending. She's talking about sending the 20-minute tour of a Forever storage account, which basically gives you a demonstration of how to use Forever on each page. And that can be found under help, under tutorials in Forever, on the Forever website. And so I just wanted to address that. Okay, let's keep moving on and talk about your class structure. So how does this class differentiate from a Forever Educator or Sacred Photos type event that we've trained on for the last couple of years, that we have a presentation for, that we've kind of talked about a little bit here as you do this? You just kind of tell us how the two are differentiated.
Sure, and I would like to give a shout out to the Forever Educator training and the Save Your Photo, because I did use a lot of that information and it helped me to get set up to speak in the public libraries, and even
Excellent.
incorporate some of that in my class. And what I find is that the Save Your Photo event is more of like an overview presentation, and it introduces Forever, if you're allowed to say Forever. Like I said, in my case, in the public library, I'm not allowed to, but if I did a separate Save Your Photos event, I can talk about Forever. So for me, that's more of an overview presentation. In the class
Yep.
that I teach, I'm teaching them exactly what to do, why they work on their own pictures. So they're connecting with their own pictures, their own memories while they're working with their Forever account. And then I show them the systems that I use to organize during the class. And I try to personalize it a little bit for each person, as we talk through their photos and their photo organization and structure and something that's specific to their needs. So I did use part of the Save Your Photos training in my class, but the class is more educating them specifically on their personal needs and exactly what they need to do to get working in their account and to really work in their account.
Fantastic. And I do see how that's differentiated. I'm glad that you shared that. And I thank you. I appreciate your shout out for the educator training. If you guys are not aware of that, so that is a training that we typically do end of summer each year, but it is all recorded, and it is a training to help you learn how to go to a library and be the expert and educate on cloud storage and what's available in cloud storage. It isn't really a sales presentation because there's no selling in a library, but another one of our leaders in the field, Lori Curley, has done a fantastic job with these, and she came up with a slide presentation that we branded, and that is what is being used as a Forever Educator presentation. So you can find that on the training site under Forever Educator training if that's something you might be interested in learning more about and doing. And we've got more information coming in the future. I'm excited to continue to work with Deb, who's another leader in the field, to come up with a good or a great presentation for you to be giving when you're doing classroom talks and classroom education like she's talking about now. So that's really the beautiful thing about this Fast Forward with Forever, that we're really going out to the field and bringing in some of these leaders, you guys who have these ideas, who are doing these great things in the field, and being able to share them with other ambassadors. So I appreciate how everyone works together so closely and so well, and is so open to sharing and helping others each step of the way. That's really a beautiful thing about Forever and about you guys, our ambassadors. All right, so let's move along to some specifics. Deb, what do you do in the first 15 minutes of your class?
So when they come into the class, I have my business card and a client contact form on the table. And the client contact form basically asks for their contact information, the best time to reach them, because on the attendee list I only get a phone number. So this allows me to get emails as well. And then I also ask them a few questions about how they manage their digital images and what photos are important to them. And so they fill this out as the folks are entering into the room. And the information on the form helps me to get to know them better. And then I review these forms between class 1 and 2. So if there's something I need to address in class 2, I kind of have that information right there. And then I try to gear something in class 2 to meet a specific need that they might have. Now, on a side note, that client contact form actually becomes then my contact form for my follow-up on my pipeline. So I 3-hole punch it and I put it in a binder, and then I make notes on it when I make follow-up client phone calls once they hit my pipeline. So as they're coming into the class, they're filling out this form, and then I kind of chit-chat a little bit about with everybody in there, what's their favorite photos and what do they like to take pictures of, because again, I'm working on building relationship with them as well. And then on the bottom part of that form, there's a place that talks about their photo goals. So I don't have them do that at the very beginning when they're coming in, but during that first 15 minutes, there is a section where we talk about their photo goals. So I start the class and I talk to them about the problems and the things that they're having, and or why they're here. So do you have problems, or managing your digital images, and are you losing digital images, that types of stuff, some of the stuff we see in the educator training. And then that helps them to see that I understand what they're feeling, because I try to connect with them. And usually during that part, they're like, oh, yeah, this is why I'm here, And then I do ask them, why are they there? And what is their photo goal? And what do they hope to accomplish? So then they write down their photo goals and what they expect to get and what they hope to accomplish. And then from there, we move into the cloud storage education and the information from the Forever Educator slides. So I utilize those slides. They're fantastic. I utilize them a lot and like to use those.
Awesome. Thank you. That gives a great description and picture of the beginning of the class and the organizational things that you do. Some of the things on probably your checklist. I love the client form idea that you have a binder now and it has your whole pipeline in it. That's just a really great thing for people to initiate if they've not already done that. A great way to keep track of conversations and goals and interests for each person. So thank you for painting that picture of what the first 15 minutes looks like. So are there handouts? Do you speak specifically to any handouts that you might give each person?
So besides the client contact form in my business card, I created a handout on how I organize my albums. Most of the time when we get into the photo organization part, people will ask me, how do I organize my albums and what do I do? And I do give them an album tour of my account, but it's just easier for them to visualize it if it's like written down in writing. So they use it a little bit as a model. Now, some folks need the handout and others do not, so I kind of play it by ear whether I hand it out. If somebody already has an idea in mind of how they want to organize and what they want to do, then I have them create their own structure and they write it out versus confusing them by showing them my way. So I do have notebook paper, so most people don't bring paper to the class, so if they want to brainstorm and generate some organization ideas, they can write out their own ideas on their notebook paper.
Excellent. Can you give us a basic idea of the flow of what you cover in each class?
So we've covered the intro in the first 15 minutes. So once I go through that and I've covered the cloud storage, then my goal from there is to get them signed up for the free Forever account and connected to me. So when they sign up for the free account, I make sure they don't check that second box because I want them connected to me. So they sign in and then I show them how to find my name and get connected to me. And once they're there, I actually have email on my phone and I tell them, now we're going to wait. There is a free phone app for your iPads and your phones. And as soon as I get that email, then we're going to sign up for the free phone app. So we kind of, I kind of make it fun, but I don't want them signing up for the app until I know for sure they're connected to me and then they don't get missed in any way. So once they have the email and they're connected to me, then I have them download the apps, whether it's on their phone or their iPad. So once we get them set up for the free account and they have that free account, then this is where the hands-on portion begins. And we do the hands-on portion to help them to organize and then some time in their Forever account. And then after that, we finish with the homework.
Okay. And I know we're going to dive into what each of these classes look like specifically, but I just wanted to reiterate that you have got a very good plan of getting them set up in the intro account and then being sure you get the welcome email so that you're sure that they are associated with you. So that's a really important piece of this puzzle here. So thank you for, really clarifying that.
And I wanted to add on that. I wanted to add on that. I did have one person sign up that had a typo in her email when she signed up. So that's why I started asking for the email coming to me, because in that way I can make sure there's no problems with her account. And because she had a typo, she couldn't get into the phone app. And so we were able to fix it, but that's just kind of why I've done that, because of that types of situation.
Yep. Right. A good learning experience there. Okay. So let's turn our attention to the actual classes. I'm sure people are really excited to hear what you do in the classes, because I know you have your own strategies or systems that you have put in place as a real educator teaching organizational structures and how to organize your Forever account. So let's go ahead and take a peek at your class 1 and talk a little bit about your initial question, why are you here, and the cultivating of photo goals.
So on this photo goals section, most of the time people will say, I don't know what I want. I'm not sure. So I might have to ask a few questions. And eventually it gets down to they want to be able to organize their photos so that they can find a photo and enjoy it when they need it. And that's kind of what I help them to try to get to. And I talk a little bit here about how soon do they want this to happen, how much time do they have, and we look at maybe a monthly goal and then a yearly goal.
Wow. And then you go into
after that, right, we do the cloud storage education and then the Forever Educator presentation. So there's not really a whole lot more to add to here. It's just, educating them about cloud storage. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard, I didn't know that. So it's exciting to be able to share that. Then we sign them up for the Forever account, and I get them all connected. And also giving them a tour of my Forever account. And when they're signing up and they're getting connected, the only thing I show them is the library. And I mention that all the photos land here, and that's all I do. I don't go too much into the library right then. I just show them this is where your photos land, and here's the library. And then I show them my albums. And I share a little bit about how I organize. And I also grab my phone and show them how my albums are here on my laptop and my computer, and then also on my phone. And that's all that I show them for the account tour. And then we go into the systems that I teach to get them organized. So when I'm talking about trying to organize your photos, there's 3 things that I teach that most people either organize chronological, by people, or events, and they may do a combination of them. So I basically ask them, when you look at your pictures, how do you think about your pictures? Do you think about them in terms of dates and chronological? Do you think about them in terms of your people? Or do you think about them in terms of your event? And this is where I give them the paper to actually brainstorm, think about all of your pictures. What are some ways that you might want to organize? And my key question here is, in 5 to 10 years from now, how would you look for a picture? And if they seem a little stumped, then I say, okay, pull up one of the pictures you brought for tonight. Look at that picture, and in 5 to 10 years from now, if you wanted that picture, how would you go to look for it? And then that kind of helps them decide which one of these formats would work for them, whether it's chronologically, people, or by events. And then sometimes they'll tell me, I don't know where I want to look for it. I want to put it in multiple places. And it's great, because then I can say, well, we have a solution for that, and I'm going to get more into that in class 2. So for right now, I just stick it into one, and we'll get more into that in class 2.
Right. I was going to say, that's really fantastic. I love how you're asking questions, letting them really think through this. And, the nice thing about Forever is they have the flexibility to organize any way they'd like. And of your 3 choices here, chronological, people, and event, they can actually do that. They could do it, all of them, if they wanted. If they wanted, to search by date, they could always go back and search by date in Forever years to come. If they have tagged it by the person, they could always go back and find it via a tag, or if they have tagged by event, or create an album by event or person. So it's really neat that you're thinking through this with them, and then showing how Forever can really meet the needs of all of these different ways to organize. Another thing that you
I'll
said,
have to tell you. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
When I first started, because we have these so many fantastic ways to organize, I feel like I kind of threw up information on them, and I shared all of that, and I completely overwhelmed them. So I really had to think through, what do they really need this first class? And I know where I'm taking them and where I'm going, but I have to be careful not to give them too much information, because I did lose some folks because I gave them way too much information in the beginning.
And that that's so good, because that was the second point that I was going to make, is that typically when I have in the past showed people how to use Forever, given account overview, I'm showing everything. And I think you're exactly right. I think the fact that you're only showing the library here is really smart and really a key, because it's not so overwhelming. But you're right, Forever offers so much that if you perhaps show it all up front, maybe that is something that's overwhelming for people. And I love what's working for you of just showing the library of where the pictures go. So I appreciate that. And that's a good point. Even though you can organize in all of these ways, really holding back everything in the beginning is really wise. So that point is very well taken. Thank you for your insight on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then after we do the organization, that's when we go into the demo. And so I show them the library where photos land, and all they do is upload photos. And I don't go into the filters. I don't go into searching. All of that comes in class 2. The only thing they need to know right now is just how to upload their photo. And then once it's uploaded, how to place it in an album. So they have their brainstorm list. And when we started, I asked them to think about the pictures that they have with them there tonight. And during this demo part for the class, I only have them upload maybe 5 to 10 pictures, only because we're dealing with public Wi-Fi, and sometimes it's slow and it's just not always real fast if we're always on it. So 5 to 10 pictures is enough to get them started at the class. So I have them upload 4 to 5 pictures, and then I have them create 1 to 2 albums. Now, for your fast workers that really get it, will do a lot more. But that's all I want them to do, is just get things uploaded and create a couple of albums, and just feel really confident in doing that.
Yeah.
And again, because of, I didn't want to share too much information, and I have to really sit on myself sometimes to not do that, because I know what Forever offers, and it's so tempting to offer so much, but I've learned the hard way. I get the deer in the headlights if I offer way too much or tell them way too much.
Yep. That's really smart. That's really good. So just keeping it really simple and letting them feel like they've accomplished something and they've gotten something started. That's a great plan. So let's talk about your strategy that's really good that you've come up with of how to do this in an efficient way.
So what I tell them as they're working through their photos is that we do keep current, work backwards. So now that they've taken this class, from here forward, you have to keep current. So you have to upload any current pictures that you take and put it into your Forever account. And I try to spell out a picture of, just imagine from a year from now, if all of your pictures for 2018 were all organized and ready to go and you can find them quickly. So I try to paint that picture for them. And then I talk about working backwards. So you're keeping forward from here forward, and working backwards, you're addressing the pictures that are most meaningful and are most important to you, and the pictures that you're afraid to lose and that you don't want to lose. And I give them an example, my daughter's baby pictures, or my daughter's first year. I have 4,000 pictures from my daughter's first year, but I haven't had time to go through and really culminate them, and there's way too many pictures in there, and I need to make that more of a treasure for her, but I don't want to lose anything. So I have them all up in my Forever account, and they're sitting there for the time when I can work backwards and get to them. So I show them that so that they can see that, I'm still working on this as well and working backwards. But I am current for the last 3 years, and I'm continuing to work backwards and keep pulling up more and more pictures to work on.
Excellent. So how old is your daughter?
She's 13.
All right. So you got 10 years to go backwards before you get there.
I actually have most of 10 years. I actually have most of her 10 years done. It's the baby pictures that I don't have done.
Yeah. Okay. Those are hard to part with. I do know that. Well, that's awesome. Good. That's such a good strategy. And it's so great to have your well thought out plan as to how to do that. I think people are just grasping for the specifics how to, and I think this is a really fantastic strategy. So thank you for sharing that with us. Talk a little bit now about the homework that you assign.
So basically the homework that I give them is they need to go back and upload those 20 to 50 pictures. And if they didn't bring the right pictures that they want to upload, they can go home and pick out something special. And I tell them in class 2, we're going to learn a little bit about how to share those pictures in a printed format in a printed book. So pick pictures that they might want to make their first book with. So that's their homework, is they upload those 20 to 50 pictures and they place it in a couple of albums. Now, if they do the homework, they'll come back with questions, because most people will have the questions. So that's why I really want them to try to work with it during that next week. And I don't give them too much because I don't want them to be overwhelmed. And some people will do more, some people will do less. And I do emphasize that if you get stuck at all, if you can't remember how to do something, here's my phone number, give me a call. Don't spend an hour trying to figure it out. Just call me and I'll walk you through it over the phone.
That's great service that you're providing them. Okay, and then I think you may have mentioned this before about email, but just tell us how you follow up between class 1 and class 2. I realize they can reach out to you, but do you reach out to them as well?
Yes, I always send them a follow-up email. Thank you for coming. I'll have a personal line or two in there about something we discussed. Then I re-give them the homework. I give them my contact information in email form, and then I remind them of the next date and time of the next class. And I do that in email, and I do tell them I will be sending you an email so they know to look for that.
Gotcha. Fantastic. All right, let's turn our attention to class number 2 and what that looks like. First, go ahead. You can take it from here. You go over homework and questions.
Right, and if they've done their homework, they always come back with a question. If it's something that I plan to address in class 2, then I'll tell them we're going to address that here in a few minutes. But if it's something that's come up that I'm not planning to address, then I'll take a few moments and share with them and answer the question at that time.
Okay. And then
the next part, right, it's more hands-on. So they open up their account, and again, if they only have their phone, we do this through the phone. So I do talk about the nesting of albums, their tags. I do get into the bulk organizing tool to address that question that usually comes up. I don't know how I'm going to look for this. I might look for it in 1 or 2 albums. So it's a great place to talk about the bulk organizing tool. And I don't have it on this slide, but I also talk about how to filter out the library. So you can filter by date, by your newest or oldest photo, or by upload date, so that as they're organizing, they can apply those filters and find the pictures that they want. Excellent. And then we go into editing and deleting photos and what that all means.
Okay.
Then from there, I actually have them start a forever print project. So they choose the book size they want, the design that they want, and my goal there is to have them with getting at least 2 to 3 pages done in their forever print book before they leave the class.
Awesome. Wow, fantastic.
So as you imagine, all that hands-on and demo, that takes the bulk of the class. And then near the end of the class, then we talk about how to make the account permanent. And by this time, they're all excited about Forever, and they want to use it, and they see it as a good system. I do go over pricing at this point, and I introduce the monthly as well as the one-time payment. And, you know, I just mentioned that it depends on their budget, which one they want to choose, and how much pictures do they have. So we may talk a little bit about, you know, the account size and what works for them. And this is where a lot of those questions will come up. And then what I found is that I tell them, let's just practice adding it to your cart. So I actually have them pick a storage that they think they ideally might want, whether it's one time or monthly, and stick it in their cart. And I have better follow-up sales if they leave with it in their cart, because then all they have to do is go home and pay for it. They really don't have them buy it at the Park and Rec site because it's a public Wi-Fi, and we're working on public Wi-Fi. But if they tell me they're going to go home and they love it and they want it, I usually get the commission email that afternoon or the next day. So once it's in their cart, all they have to do is check out when they get home and they're done.
Gotcha. Fantastic.
And then the Forever Media conversion, that will come up either before or after the permanent making their account storage. And it just depends on the conversations in the class, because eventually people will bring up they have printed pictures. And if they don't, then I'll talk about printed pictures and how important that is. And I'll show them how my media a couple of albums that I've made for my media conversion, and how these pictures are important and I don't want to lose them, and how wonderful it is to have them right here. So then that's when I'll go into talking about the Forever Media conversion, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And if they're interested in that, I'll actually have them add a box to their cart as well.
Oh, that's a smart idea.
And then the last part is we finish up with, now that you've taken this class, how are you going to continue with this and get it done? And so I teach them the 15 minutes a day that Sherry Meisner came up with, and I use it and I teach them about it and tell them how to use it. So I encourage them to do that. And then I end with the options that they have to work with me. So I give them 3 options to work with me. I call it For Me, which they basically pay me to organize their pictures. They don't want to mess with it, but they want it done. So they pay me to work on their pictures and organize. And then I call it With Me, and they pay me to work side by side with them, one-on-one. Some folks just want some hand holding, so I sit with them side by side. And then I call it On My Own with Help. And basically what that is that's my personal photo coaching. So I use the analogy of the personal trainer. So if you want a personal trainer for photo coaching, I offer a 3-week window where I do one-on-one photo coaching over the phone, and I'm specifically addressing their needs and how they're organizing and what they come up with. And then I check in with them a couple of times, either via text, email, whatever they want, whatever's easiest for them. And then I just check in with them. Are you doing it? Are you getting in your 15 minutes a day? And with questions that's specific to them. So some folks will sign up for the personal photo coaching. And there is a charge for that, but then they get half of the feedback and gift certificate if they meet their photo goal by the end of those 3 weeks.
Oh, that's a fantastic incentive that you give them. So tell us a little bit about that. How much do you charge for all of those options?
So I charge anywhere from $40 to $60.
An hour. An hour.
An hour. So to do it for them, it's $60 an hour. Unless they buy a bigger storage account, then I'll give them a break and charge $50 an hour. To do it side by side, I charge $40 an hour. And then the photo coaching, it's $40 for the 3 weeks. And the time commitment on my part is just the time for a phone call and then some emails. So it's not as extensive. And then they get the $20 back in the Forever gift certificate. And on that photo coaching, I'm wanting them to do books. I'm wanting them to add more storage. So my main goal there isn't so much to make money on the fees for that. It's getting them to use their account, getting them to make books, and then making the purchases.
It seems like in your class too, when you said that you have them start a Forever print project, that even like when they leave, setting that goal to finish the book and order it. I think once a person has brought photos together in Forever, created a book and ordered that book and has it back in their hands, suddenly they realize the value of this and the lights go off. Now, sometimes the lights go on before that, but it's definitely, when you have that book in your hand, it's just such a valuable, I don't want to say sales tool, but it really is a sales tool, but there's some magic that goes on there. So I feel like that's a really great thing that you're starting the book while they're there and can encourage them to continue that, when they get home.
And if they started the book, I do, in the follow-up, I do say, where are you with your book? Are you planning to finish it? Depending on what they set up as their photo goal to get that done.
Yeah, gotcha. And then my other question that I know I've got a couple questions coming in about how long your classes are. So can you tell us about how long they are?
They're an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
An hour wasn't quite long enough. And if I go to too much longer than that, then people think the class is too long. Now, I do have a 15-minute wiggle room with Park and Rec where I actually have it for an hour and a half. So if people want to stay a little longer, they can. But the class itself is an hour and 15 minutes.
And you said you do 2 classes, and are they 1 week in between? So it's like, let's say on a Monday, 1 week, and then the next Monday, the following week?
Correct.
Okay. And you said you charge $30 for the class.
Right. It's $30 for the 2 classes.
Okay. So this has just been really fantastic. We do have some questions that have come in. So let's go ahead and open it up. If you have questions, go ahead and type it in the question box. And as people are doing that, I have a question that I can go ahead and ask you, and you can answer. And that is, how did you approach and sell yourself to Park and Rec to get this opportunity? Were they aware that you will be selling something when they signed up for the class, the people coming in? So I know we kind of addressed that a little bit, but if you could maybe give a little more information about how you're approaching them and selling yourself to get the opportunity.
So when you go to Park and Rec, because they're always looking for teachers and courses. So I called our Park and Rec department and met with the main person, and I actually had an interview, like a job interview, and I brought to them a course outline on what I'm educating and sharing with Forever. And I am hired as an independent contractor. So because I'm hired as an independent contractor, there's no issues with selling. They just want to make sure, they get feedback from your courses. So if people are happy and they're getting educated, that's really what they're looking at. And they don't have issues with the selling at the end, as long as the feedback's not coming back, well, I'm just there because they're trying to sell something to me. So that's kind of where I don't really have issues with that. So I contacted our Park and Rec, and I asked them, how do I start a class? And here's my idea. And I had the interview, and I showed him the course outline, and then it kind of took off from there.
Fantastic. And just remind me, maybe clarify a little bit. You said that $30 for the class. The Park and Rec does all the advertising, the registration. Do they keep a portion of that $30, or do you?
Yes.
Okay.
So they pay for the class, and then Park and Rec keeps 40%. So after
40%.
At the end of So at the end of each month, I actually invoice Park and Rec for the number of people that have been in my classes for my portion, and then they mail me a check for my portion. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So someone is just saying, so you basically get less than $20 for each attendee for the 2 classes. So the one thing I want to say about that is Deb made it very clear that she's not really doing this for the money that she's making teaching the classes, but rather a way to increase her customer base and get new clients, and then work with people. So the money is nice coming in from the class, but that's not really where she's deriving her income. Is that correct?
Correct. And I basically use the money coming in from the classes. That's how I pay for my gift certificates. So if I do the classes right, then people are referring me to their families. They're referring me to their friends. They're purchasing the storage accounts. So they're spending quite a bit of money on the storage accounts, and then that's where I make my money, is from the commissions. And that's kind of how I look at it, is I make money from the Forever, from working my Forever business versus from the class fees from the classes. And it's about the same amount of time when you think about it. If I did a party presentation, I might do an extra night, but I find I have higher sales with these classes than I did with a party type presentation.
Absolutely. Now, the other question is $30 for both of the classes, not just for one. That's correct, right?
Correct.
$30 for the series. Okay. And then we also...
And I try to keep the class fee down because I didn't want the class fee to have them not sign up. So it's purposely not real high, but it's enough that they've made a commitment and they'll show up.
Okay. Now, a couple other questions here. Do you ever bring up other forever projects like historian or artisan?
That's a great question because when I first started, I did show historian, and I found that I sold a lot of historian and not so much storage. And I had a conversation with a couple folks about that, and I just stopped offering historian, and I sold a lot more storage after that. Now, I personally use historian, and I love historian. And if I get somebody that's real computer savvy and that's good with the computer and they're PC based, then I'll talk about historian one-on-one after they've purchased the storage. But the storage works fine for most of the needs of the folks in my classes.
Gotcha. Yep, that's great. Definitely easy to teach on. And then how often or how frequently do you offer these courses and classes in your workshop?
I do the beginning classes either once or twice a month, depending on my schedule. So I could have a beginning class like week 1, and then the second class is week 2, and then offer another beginning class week 3 or 4. So depending on my schedule, I do 1 or 2, and then I always do a workshop once a month.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, we're getting a lot of feedback that this was just such a great course that you offered to all of our ambassadors. So we want to thank you for that. One other question that I know a lot of people are asking is about your slides, and the slides that she uses during her presentation and your handout and those kinds of things. I will say that we're going to be working together to get those out to you from Forever. Deb's going to work real closely with our team here at Forever so we can provide that for you in the future. We don't have a timetable for that, so don't wait for them. Go ahead and get started. If you're interested in doing these classes, it's a good time now to go ahead and get them set up and get your courses going. But know in the future, we'll be providing a slide deck for you and some of the other things as well that she uses. Also, I do know she uses the Forever Educator presentation. So that is something that you can use during the class as well. And that's available on the training site also. So Deb, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And it's not just the time that you put in here, but also the time that you and I have talked and you've shared all your information. And I appreciate you just being so open with our ambassador community and sharing information. Feel free, if you have any other questions to ask Deb, you could just post it right in the ambassador room, even under the post that I just posted, letting you know about the meeting. And I'm sure Deb would be happy to answer those questions as well. So thank you so much for everyone who's attended this third Fast Forward Forever training. These are just fantastic. I hope you learned a lot. And I hope you'll join us next week for the final Fast Forward Forever training for the month of January. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.